Welcome to the Catholic Audio Media Podcast, here for the 13th week of Ordinary Time. As you know, we have our new format, and we are here now every Monday through Friday. Our podcast actually drops around midnight now, and so you can hear it any time during the day. And we always begin with a discussion of the readings, and then we go on and from there to fulfill our discussion of whatever are the issues that are striking us at the time. So we're actually still in Genesis, and in light of that, we're looking at Genesis chapter 28. We're going to start to look at the beginning of what ultimately becomes the nation of Israel, but we're also going to be looking at the steps towards the Exodus. And that's what we're going to see this week. We're not going to see the Exodus event, which is the whole story of Moses and the Ten Commandments and everything. We're not going to see that this week, but we're going to see the beginning of what ultimately leads to Exodus. And we're going to see something pretty powerful, because what we're going to understand is the naming of the new nation of Israel at that time, not the one from 1948, but the one from long before even the birth of Moses. So that's what we're talking about. And that is the nation that is named after the grandson of Abraham, the son of Isaac and Rebekah. That man is named Jacob. Interesting little story about him, which we're not going to see in the daily readings this year. But interesting little story about him. He became the inheritor of Isaac's blessing. Remember, Isaac was the son of Abraham. So he became the inheritor by the working of his mother. Why? She did not believe that her other son, who was the one who really should have received the birthright blessing from Isaac, she didn't believe he should receive it. So she kind of worked behind the scenes with Jacob, and she cheated. And they both cheated, made the blind Isaac think that he was giving the birthright to Esau, who was his brother, an older brother, the one who was entitled to it. And in fact, by cheating, they led Jacob to receive the birthright, and Esau was refused the birthright. So if you think that in order to be part of the family of God, you have to, we've discussed this before, you have to be perfect and you have to be this living saint. Well, maybe, but we're going to see some history in all these people. I mean, Moses and David both killed people. Moses directly, David indirectly. We see Jacob stole Esau's birthright from Isaac, working with his mother. We're going to see a lot of that in the history that leads up not only to Moses, but also to Jesus. And so in that history, we realize, wait a minute, if humanity isn't perfect, how can we demand that perfection on us? So that's one of the things we're going to look at this week. That's part of it, where we're going to see a whole bunch of imperfection coming from the family of Abraham. And let us realize something else. Abraham was not chosen because he was perfect. He was chosen because he was faithful. St. Paul looks at that a little later. But it's important because so many people get caught up in this idea. First of all, they do a mistranslation or misunderstanding, I guess a better way to put it, that you have to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. That's something that Jesus says during the Sermon of the Mount in Matthew. You're called to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. You're not called to be perfect as you're a perfect person. You're called to be perfect in love and mercy. So you're called to be loving and merciful. And the people who are loving and merciful will be great stars of service of the Lord and do great things for their company and their country, rather, and their community, their company too, I guess you could say. And so that will happen if they are, no one's perfect in anything, but if they are seeking to be good in love and mercy. If they're seeking to be perfect and being home run kings, well, that's a whole different story, and that's not in the Bible. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite stories is you'll always notice, and Babe Ruth is a classic example, your home run kings are also your strikeout kings, usually. Go look at the records of the people who got the most home runs in any particular year or even in their entire career, and look at the ones who struck out the most times, and you usually see the names are pretty close to being the same. Babe Ruth was not only the one who hit the most home runs in his career, he also struck out the most times. Very powerful realities indicating yet again, as another example, we're not called to be perfect people. We're called to be people who seek to be perfect in love and mercy. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Catholic Audio Media Podcast. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. We're back. So we're talking about this powerful understanding of being perfect and or imperfect. And by the way, speaking of which, we've had this new format. We're in a new week of the new format. You heard the phone number, 617-297-7452. Give us a call. Tell us what you think. People do that, and tell us what you think. Also, you'll be informed that we can use your comment on in the podcast, so let us do that. I don't do it for everyone's comment, but I do it for some, and we use the comment for the podcast. Now, I have to be honest. Sometimes people call, "Hey, Farda, can you lend me a couple bucks?" No, please don't call for that reason, because I won't respond to you if you do that. But if you're calling to say, I'm listening to the podcast, it's helping me or whatever, there's a good chance I may put your recording, if you recognize that, into the podcast. But in any case, we're talking about this reality that we understand the whole history of Jesus is filled with imperfect people. So if the history of Jesus is filled with imperfect people and the history after Jesus is filled with imperfect people, why do people get hung up with trying to be perfect? It's just not in there. It's not our call. Oh, you got to be perfect in order to... I'm not going to go to church because only perfect people can go to church. Where did you read that? Where did you see that? That doesn't make any sense. I talked last week how I call him St. Francis again. Pope Francis, well, maybe he'll be St. Francis someday. Pope Francis taught that the church is a hospital for people who are sinners. Well, if it's a hospital for people who are sinners, how can you get the idea that only perfect people go to church? I do this thing where people will ask. See, I'm careful about when people say all are welcome, because the people who are called to be welcome are people who are, just like not all are welcome in a hospital, only those people who need the care of the hospital. So a church is there to help you who recognize that you're a sinner and you need the grace of God in order to be transformed into being a loving, merciful person. And that's what church is all about. And we're turning ourselves over to the very core, the very source of love and mercy, which is God himself, as demonstrated by his Son giving us of himself in the Eucharist. So we understand. So he gives us of himself completely, and we come receive the Eucharist and we give ourselves to him completely. So who is welcome in the church? People who recognize their need for that grace. They may not be ready to receive communion, because what is communion? The Lord gives himself completely over to you, and you say to the Lord, I give myself completely over to our Lord. So you see that very powerful thing. But so what's my problem with all are welcome? Well, it's simple. If you have someone who is not welcome, I didn't say that right, who is not interested in coming to seek the Lord, but he or she just wants to walk into a church for the heck of it, well, they're welcome, obviously, to come, but something's eventually going to go wrong, because they're going to find out, well, they're kind of misplaced. They have no intention of seeking the Lord, and therefore there's going to be some misplacement. But that means anyone who has an intention seeking the Lord, and that could be anyone. I did a homily one time where I talked about who's welcome, and anyone who is seeking to be transformed in God's grace. Well, that means if you have someone who is maybe someone who recognizes they have a need for God's grace, maybe someone who recognizes that they need the love of God, maybe someone who recognizes that their current way of living is not working. And one of the examples I actually used in a homily, which is true, something to keep in mind. What if you have someone who is an axe murderer and wants to stop doing his life of axe murdering? Can he go into a church? Yes, because he wants to turn away from axe murdering. And you might say, well, Father, it's illegal to be an axe murderer. Well, yes, but that's a legal issue. That's something that, that's a legal issue. That's something that the person will come to realize in grace. Well, they have to settle the legal injustice issue caused before they decided not to continue their life of axe murdering. So I said, that's it. Anyone who wants to change their life. I said, however, keep them aware that there are other people in church who you may see, wow, yeah, those are awful sinners. And say someone there is a former axe murderer, but you may not want to accept their invitation to go to Home Depot or any one of these big box hardware stores to go buy something to cut down trees. Just saying. I'm just saying. But you see what I'm saying? Church is for everyone who seeks to be transformed, because everyone ultimately needs it. And if you want to see an example, let's just start with the family of Abraham. But in any case, we're going to be right back right after this. You're listening to the Catholic Audio Media Podcast. We'll be right back. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Check us out. Check what we have to offer. Previews of upcoming podcasts. Previews of upcoming columns over at catholicaudiomedia.substack.com. Your ability to comment, make suggestions, even make suggestions in upcoming programs. Check us out. Patreon.com, Catholic Audio Media. And right now, if you subscribe, then you will be able to be subscribing to our Patreon page for free. We're eventually going to come to a point, and I think that'll happen in August, September. We'll announce to you ahead of time. So if you'd like to subscribe, the people who get under the wire of when we will offer paid content as well as some free content, those people will always get free content, always get whatever content we offer. It'll be free to them. But that'll be up until we give you the deadline. I think that'll be in August. So keep that in mind. This is a good time to sign up and give that a try. So, in the meantime, we are here. Oh, I should then tell you the website again, patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. So, we're talking about this powerful reality of the imperfect history of the people of that we can see in Abraham. Now, what we see in the children of Abraham is Esau and Jacob, who are the grandchildren of Abraham. They are the children of Isaac, and Jacob and his mother lie to prevent Esau from getting the birthright, and in doing so, what happens is Jacob ends up with the birthright. Now, this is understanding that now this event happened in that time that is skipped over in our story of Genesis. So we're beginning with Jacob, who now is officially the one who has the birthright of Isaac. So he represents the authority of Abraham, then Isaac, then Jacob. And Jacob is now, of course, Jacob's well. What is Jacob's well? That is the well that Jesus meets the Samaritan woman. Jacob is a powerful person, but as we're going to see, he's not Jacob very long. There's always this thing about changing your names. You find that in religious work too. I love to tell people that I'm named after my father, who is named after his Uncle John. And I remember telling that to a priest in the seminary, and you just saw his eyes just go up to the corner, like this calculation was trying to work. That doesn't make sense. How does that make any sense? He doesn't say anything, but it was like, what? You were named after your father, who was named after his Uncle John, but your name is Robert. How are you named after your father, who was named after his Uncle John? Well, my father's Uncle John became a Trappist monk. And when he entered the Trappists, he changed his name to Robert. So I'm named after my father, who was also Robert Carr. He's Robert B. Carr. I'm Robert J. I'm named after my father, who was named after his Uncle John, and that's where that comes in. But changing names is very common in religious life, and just about anyone who enters religious life changes their name. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, everyone changes their name. So what they do is they take different names, and those different names represent different things. So they take them for a specific reason, but that changing of name is important. So as we go through the week, we're going to learn about the name change of Jacob. And I'm sure many of you say, well, I don't know. I don't need to listen to that. We all know who Jacob became. Yes, many of us do, but some people may not. But that is the part of that whole thing where you get this new identity. Why do you get this new identity? Because you are changed, and you're calling to change in Christ. Kind of think of it this way as well. We were just talking about the axe murderer. I hope there's no axe murderers, former axe murderers in your local parish. But you never know. Someone might stand up. They're one of those, well, I'm a whole different person than I was ever since I came to know Jesus. Oh, really? What kind of person were you? Well, I was an axe murderer. You were what? You were what? You were an axe murderer? Hopefully you axe murdered trees and nothing else. Or hopefully you meant to say the word ask and you said axed, and so you murdered the word ask, being an axe murderer. Maybe that's why. But please don't tell me that prior to coming to know Jesus, you were an axe murderer. Wow, that's a part of my life I don't want to talk about. No kidding. No kidding. Well, obviously, I'm sure you're not going to meet anyone in church who in a previous life was an axe murderer. But you see what I'm saying? Your whole life has changed. I mean, I am very open of the fact that previous to my returning to the church, what is known as a reversion, that I was one who imbibed intensely. And one of my favorite stories about that, just a simple anecdote more than anything else, because people would say to me, we don't believe that you ever were a drinker, that you ever were drunk. And my mother would say, send them to me and I'll tell them all about it. And I'm sure she would, because, I mean, there I was. I was a very heavy drinker. I used to drink, they say, always make sure you know your limit. Well, I did. My limit was when I saw double. I'm not kidding. That was, I'm seeing double now. Now I was in a bar. Now I'm in a bar with 2 bars, and there's a duplicate number of people at each of the 2 bars. It's time for me to go home. And how did I get home? I walked. I literally came to a point in my life where I said, I either have to quit driving or quit drinking. And I decided to quit driving. Do you understand? Because I knew those 2 things do not mix at all. If you are drinking, you have no business driving. And if you are driving and someone you know is drinking, drive them home. But and the best solution is don't be drinking. Don't be drinking. At least, drink, yeah, but don't get drunk. And, I have a rule, and we'll talk about it on the other side of the break because we're coming up to the break again for the phone number. But, I have a rule, and it's very easy for me to explain to people why I don't drink. And I'll talk about that on the other side of the break. We'll be right back right after this. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. We're back, and we're talking about this powerful message of understanding what, that reality of we're transformed, we're converted, so our previous life is left behind. So one of the rules I make, it actually, because of my current occupation, it's very easy. And what is the rule I make? It's really simple. Someone goes, hey, can I buy you a beer? No, thank you. And, no, you'll be okay. This is if I'm driving. No, you'll be okay. As I always say, look, if I have a beer and then get into a car and drive home and I'm stopped by the police, I'll be on the front page of the Boston Globe. And that is literally what I tell people. No, one beer ain't going to hurt. That's okay. I'm not going to, now what I do, I've been drinking is, there's this athletic beer. And this is not a paid advertisement. This is, nothing but athletic beer. Turns out they only make non-alcoholic beer. They don't make alcoholic beer. So you can ask for an athletic, or you can ask for any of the other brands that are non-alcoholic, Heineken 00, O'Doul's, all the rest of them. And then you're fine. I had a cousin who had a drinking problem. It's in the family. Why do you have a drinking problem? Well, it's in the family. So anyway, I had a cousin who had a drinking problem. And this is a great story. And he went sober. Wonderful thing. But there's no but to it. He started drinking O'Doul's. And I guess he had O'Doul's in his car in South Carolina. Now, I don't know whether he was driving with an open bottle of O'Doul's or it just happened to be in his car, but whatever the case may be, he got stopped by the police and he got arrested for drinking and driving, right? But it's non-alcoholic beer. You should be able to, maybe you're not supposed to drink it while you're driving. And I don't know what my cousin was doing at the time, but you're not drinking and driving if you're drinking O'Doul's. If you're drinking O'Doul's at a bar, unless the laws in your state are different, and you get into a car and they stop you and ask you to blow a, what do they call the breathalyzer? It should show up to be nothing, or as they say, how much alcohol you have if you ate a peach. So he was, I guess, it must have been arrested. I don't know. and charged with driving under the influence or something like that. And Anheuser-Busch, this is when they first started O'Doul's, sent his lawyer. They sent their lawyers to defend him because this is a big thing. This is the reality that this is non-alcoholic beer. It tastes like beer. This is all the brands. Tastes like beer, but it doesn't have the alcohol of beer. So you should be able to drink non-alcoholic beer and drive because you are not impaired by any alcohol in the beer. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, and he won the case. He won the case, and Anheuser-Busch won the case, and there you go. And this is an important distinction because it's important to understand that, you know, that whole thing of drinking and driving. Well, how did I get on this? Simple. Talking about our former way of life, talking about that new name, that new identity. And this is some of the stuff that we see that comes out of the religious life. Yeah, I was that kind of a person, but I'm not that. None of us I know were axe murderers. However, do you know that the murderer of Maria Goretti was invited to her canonization mass and ceremony? Yes, indeed. He had done 40 years in prison, and he had murdered her, and she forgave. It's a long story. Well, how did she forgive him? Well, yeah, it's a long story. It's a really fascinating story. But, and he actually had a tremendous conversion experience, and he was present, I think, with her mother, too, at her canonization ceremony. Very powerful. Talk about a transformation. So there you have these. This is what our faith is all about, this radical transformation in the faith. That's what the new identity means. You have a new identity in the faith. Who you were prior to returning to the church or coming into the church is not the same person that you are now. That's what we're called to be. Just like the person you were when they dragged you into the hospital is not the same person that they allowed to walk out because now you're fine. Do you get that? Anyway, we're going to be back tomorrow. In the meantime, have yourself a blessed day, and we will see you then. You can now leave a message for us, which we can air and discuss on this program. Just call 617-297-7452. That's 617-297-7452. 617-297-7452. Feel free to call, leave a comment, a question, or even feedback, and we may play it on the air. I can discuss your comment or question as well, so give that a try. 617-297-7452, 617-297-7452. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Check us out. Check what we have to offer. Previews of upcoming podcasts. Previews of upcoming columns over at catholicaudiomedia.substack.com. Your ability to comment, make suggestions, even make suggestions in upcoming programs. Check us out. Patreon.com, Catholic Audio Media. And don't forget, from now until sometime in August, if you sign up for patreon.com, Catholic Audio /Catholic Audio Media, and you sign up for a subscription, that when I do go to have free content and paid content, your content will be free because you will have got in under the wire. So if you'd like to go sign up for a subscription right now, go over there right now to patreon.com/Catholic Audio Media. Keep that in mind, and we will again see you tomorrow, same time, where you find us. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to call and leave a comment. Don't forget to eat your lunch. Don't forget your mittens. Don't forget your hat. I don't know, but don't forget. Anyway, don't forget. And anyway, we'll see you tomorrow. At the same time, the program drops at midnight. See you then.